Malik, the janitor of Orion Station, liked the quiet nights. The hum of the machines and the soft glow of the lights made the long hallways feel calm. He moved slowly with his mop and bucket, humming tunes to himself. No one noticed him much, and that suited him fine. He had grown used to being invisible, blending into the background while the busy workers rushed past him. Tonight, however, the quiet was broken by a small, strange sound. A soft tapping came from the door of the supply room. Malik stopped and tilted his head. The sound was faint, but it was there. He slowly walked over and opened the door. His eyes widened. A tiny creature stood in the doorway. It was small, no taller than Malik's knee, with soft scales that glimmered faintly blue under the lights. Its big round eyes were filled with fear and something else, hope. The little dragon looked up at him and spoke in a trembling, tiny voice. "Can I sleep here tonight?" Malik blinked. He had heard of dragons before, powerful and proud creatures, but never one that could talk, and certainly never one that would ask him, a lowly janitor, for permission to stay. Yet here it was, shivering and small, looking like it had nowhere else to go. He stepped aside and opened the door wider. "Of course," he said softly. "Come in." The hatchling moved carefully inside, its claws clicking softly on the metal floor. It curled up beside the warm hum of the generator. Malik went to the supply closet and found an old, folded blanket. He placed it gently beside the little dragon and sat on a nearby crate, watching. For a long time, the hatchling just looked at him silently. Then it whispered, "Thank you, human." Malik felt a strange warmth in his chest. Words like that had not been spoken to him in a long time. Most people in the station ignored him completely, but this small creature had looked at him, really looked at him, and appreciated him. The hatchling slowly closed its eyes, curling its tail neatly around itself. Malik kept his eyes on the small glowing scales, noticing how delicate and fragile the creature seemed. The quiet in the room felt different now. It was softer, warmer, alive in a way Malik had not felt in years. He thought about his own life. The long nights, the constant cleaning, the feeling that he was unseen. Yet here was a creature smaller, weaker, and just as alone. He realized he understood the little dragon in a way that no one else could. Hours passed. Malik continued his work quietly, sweeping the floor and arranging supplies, careful not to disturb the sleeping hatchling. Outside, the lights of Orion Station blinked steadily, and the occasional hum of a distant shuttle passed through the air vents. But inside the supply room there was peace. At one point, the hatchling stirred and looked at Malik with sleepy eyes. "Do you always work alone?" it asked in a tiny voice. "Yes," Malik replied with a shrug. "Most people don't even notice me." The little dragon tilted its head. "I know what that feels like." Malik nodded silently. Somehow he didn't need the dragon to explain. He understood the feeling of being small in a place full of giants, of being overlooked, of not having anyone to really care. And now, sitting beside this lost creature, he felt a strange connection he hadn't expected. Night deepened outside the station windows. The hum of machines and the flicker of lights became a lullaby. Malik leaned back against the crate and closed his eyes for a moment. When he opened them, the hatchling was sleeping peacefully, its small chest rising and falling. The faint glow of its scales painted soft shadows on the walls. Malik wondered where the little dragon had come from. How did it end up here, on a station filled with humans who had never seen such a thing? He did not know, and for now it didn't matter. What mattered was that he had given a place for someone to be safe, even for one night. He smiled faintly. Maybe he was just a janitor. Maybe no one else would ever notice what he had done. But here, in the small warmth of the supply room, he felt important. The little dragon had reminded him that even the smallest gestures mattered, even the smallest person could make a difference. As he watched the tiny creature sleep, Malik realized something. Sometimes being noticed was not about power or rank. Sometimes it was about kindness. A quiet act of care could change the world even if no one else saw it. Outside, the station continued its endless work, but inside the supply room for one night, there was peace. And Malik knew without knowing why, that this night would not be like any other he had ever experienced. The hatchling shifted slightly, nuzzling into the blanket Malik had placed. "Good night," it whispered. "Good night," Malik replied softly. And for the first time in a long time he felt that he had done something truly right. Morning light spilled into the supply room, bouncing off the metal walls. Malik was already awake, quietly sweeping the floor. The little dragon was awake too, sitting on the blanket and stretching his tiny wings. He yawned, revealing a small row of sharp teeth, but they were not frightening, just like a child's. Malik watched him for a moment. "Sleep well?" he asked softly. The hatchling nodded, blinking his bright eyes. Yes, thank you. There was a silence for a moment, broken only by the hum of the station. Malik could see the little dragon's scales glinting in the sunlight, more beautiful than he had noticed last night. They seemed alive, like tiny stars moving across his back. You don't have to hide here forever, Malik said carefully. You should go back to wherever you belong. The hatchling shook his head quickly. No, I can't. They would be angry. They would expect me to behave like a prince. His small voice trembled slightly. I didn't want that. Malik tilted his head. A prince? He asked. What do you mean? The hatchling hesitated, looking down at his tiny claws. Then he took a deep breath and whispered, I am the son of the Dragon High King. Malik stopped sweeping. He stared at the little creature, unsure if he had heard correctly. The king? He asked, his voice low. Yes, the hatchling said softly. I am next in line to rule. But I didn't want to be in the palace. I didn't want to be treated like an object, like everyone only sees me for what I am, not who I am. Malik felt a lump in his throat. He had worked at Orion Station for many years and had never felt truly seen. And now this little dragon, so small, so alone, felt the same way. Somehow, he understood that loneliness completely. You ran away from them? Malik asked quietly. The hatchling nodded. I wanted someone to see me as I am. Not as a prince. Not as a dragon. Just me. Malik crouched down to be closer to him. Then you found that person, he said gently. You found me. The hatchling's eyes brightened and he took a small step closer. Really? He whispered. You don't care that I am royalty? Malik smiled softly. No, I don't care. You are just a little dragon and you needed a place to be safe. The hatchling's tail curled around him as he relaxed slightly. I think I like it here, he admitted. I feel safe. And you listen to me. Malik nodded. Sometimes that is all anyone needs. Someone to listen. Outside, the station was growing busy. People moved quickly through the corridors, unaware of the tiny dragon hiding in the supply room. Malik knew it would not be safe for long. Eventually, someone would notice. The hatchling would be found. But for now, they had a moment of peace. You must have had many teachers, tutors, and guards, Malik said, and yet you came to me. Why? The hatchling looked at him with wide, honest eyes. Because you talk to me like I am real. Not a symbol. Not a crown. Just me. Malik felt his chest tighten. He thought about all the years he had spent cleaning floors, fixing machines, and never being noticed. And now, this tiny creature appreciated him in a way that no human ever had. He realized something important. It was not about power, rank, or importance. Sometimes, connection mattered more than everything else. The hatchling yawned again and curled up on the blanket. Will you stay with me today? He asked softly. Malik nodded. I will. For the rest of the morning, Malik stayed with the hatchling. He made sure the little dragon had water and soft cloths to sit on. He told quiet stories about his own life, about the station, and about how sometimes small things mattered more than anyone realized. The hatchling listened, fascinated, his eyes wide and sparkling. You are brave, the hatchling said finally. I don't know if I would be brave enough to hide like this alone. Malik shook his head. You are braver than you know. You left the palace. You trusted a stranger. You are not just a little dragon, you are someone who makes choices. The hatchling's tiny chest puffed out with pride. Do you really think I can do important things? He asked softly. Malik smiled warmly. I do. And I think one day everyone will see it too. But for now, just be yourself. The station lights flickered, reminding them both of the busy world outside. Malik knew soon the hatchling would be discovered. The High King would send guards. Questions would be asked. People would be searching for him. But in this small room, in this quiet moment, they were safe. The hatchling leaned closer to Malik. I'm glad I found you, he whispered. I feel like someone sees me. Malik placed a gentle hand on his small head. I see you, he said. And that is enough for now. For a few more hours they stayed together. Outside, the station continued its endless work, but inside the supply room, a small dragon and a human janitor shared a secret bond. Malik realized that sometimes, the smallest acts of kindness, offering warmth, offering attention, offering care, could mean more than power, money, or fame. And the little dragon, once lost and afraid, now felt hope for the first time. The day passed quietly at first, but Malik knew it could not last. The little dragon stayed hidden in the supply room, resting on the blanket Malik had made comfortable. His glowing scales were soft in the dim light, and his tiny eyes followed every movement Malik made. The hatchling occasionally peeked out at the empty hallways, curious and cautious at the same time. Malik checked the station monitors quietly. He had learned over the years how the human security system worked. The heat sensors, the motion detectors, the patrol routes, they were all designed to catch anything unusual. Malik knew it would not take long before someone noticed a strange life form in the station. He needed a plan. Hours passed, and the soft tapping of machinery became a low, steady hum. The hatchling finally spoke, his voice small but anxious. "Do you think they are looking for me?" Malik knelt beside him. "Yes," he said. "Someone will notice eventually. But we will stay careful. We have to be smart, not scared." The little dragon nodded. "I don't want to go back," he whispered. "I don't want them to treat me like I'm just a symbol." Malik reached out and placed his hand gently on the hatchling's small head. "Then we will find a way to keep you safe, at least for now. I promise." He had an idea. He pushed his cleaning cart closer and motioned for the hatchling to climb in. Carefully, the little dragon clambered onto the soft cloths inside. Malik covered him with a blanket, making a small nest so he could stay warm. "Where are we going?" the hatchling asked quietly. "Somewhere they won't think to look," Malik whispered. "Somewhere I know is safe." Slowly and quietly, Malik wheeled the cart out of the supply room and down the long hallways. He kept his head down, acting like nothing was unusual. Every so often a security officer passed by, their eyes scanning the hall. Malik held his breath and smiled politely, pretending to be just another janitor on his nightly route. One officer stopped him suddenly. "Hey janitor, have you seen anything strange today?" Malik shook his head calmly. "No, just cleaning," he said softly, smiling. The officer frowned but waved him along. Malik let out a quiet sigh of relief once he was past. Inside the cart, the hatchling peeked out from under the blanket. "You're brave," he whispered. Malik chuckled quietly. "I'm just careful. That is different from bravery." Hours went by. Malik guided the cart to a forgotten section of the station, an area with old storage rooms that nobody visited anymore. He lifted the hatchling out carefully and placed him on the floor. The little dragon stretched, testing the space with his tiny claws and wings. "This will work," Malik said softly. "They won't think to look here." But just as he spoke, a low rumble shook the floor. Both of them froze. The hum grew louder and the walls trembled slightly. Malik knew immediately what it was. Outside, a Royal Dragon cruiser had docked at the station. The search had grown bigger. The hatchling's eyes widened in fear. They found me?" he whispered. "Not yet," Malik said calmly. "But soon they will." He helped the little dragon hide behind old crates and boxes. The hatchling curled up, his glowing scales dimming slightly as he tried to stay unseen. Malik peeked through a small crack in the metal wall. Soldiers in dragon armor were moving through the station. Their eyes scanned the hallways carefully. They were looking for the missing prince. Malik's heart raced. He knew these were not ordinary guards, they would not stop until they found him. But he could not let the little dragon go back unwillingly. He needed to protect him no matter the risk. The hatchling whispered, "Do you think they will take me away?" Malik shook his head. "Not if I can help it. We will stay hidden until we find a safe way." Minutes stretched into hours. Malik stayed close, whispering softly to the hatchling to keep him calm. He moved carefully, adjusting boxes and crates so they would blend into the shadows. The little dragon curled up beside him, trusting him completely. "I never had a friend before," the hatchling said quietly. "Everyone else, they only cared that I am a prince. They never cared about me." Malik nodded. "Sometimes the right person comes along when you least expect it. Someone who sees you for who you are, not what you are." The hatchling's eyes glimmered. "That's you?" he whispered. Malik smiled, brushing a small scale from the hatchling's forehead. "Yes, that's me." The rumble outside continued, and Malik knew the search was only getting bigger. The Royal Dragon cruiser's engines pulsed like a heartbeat. Soldiers and officers would sweep every corner. But in this forgotten storage wing, in the quiet shadowed corner, Malik and the little dragon had a moment of peace. For now the tiny dragon was safe. For now Malik had kept him hidden. And Malik understood something clearly. Courage was not only in fighting or in strength. Courage was in caring, in protecting, in believing that even a small lonely creature deserved safety and kindness. The hatchling curled closer to Malik, resting his head on his hand. "I feel safe," he whispered. "Thank you for keeping me here." Malik smiled softly. "We will find a way to keep you safe for longer. Don't worry. Outside, the station continued its busy work. The engines hummed, the lights blinked, and the search grew larger. But inside, in the quiet corner of the station, a human janitor and a lost dragon hatchling shared a bond stronger than fear, stronger than duty, stronger than the Empire itself. And Malik knew that whatever came next, he would not let the little dragon be alone again. The corridor trembled as heavy footsteps echoed through the station. Malik froze beside the hiding spot he had made for the little dragon. Outside, guards in shining armor moved quickly, their eyes scanning every corner. Then a deep, commanding voice rang out, filling the hallways and making workers stop in their tracks. "It has been brought to my attention that my son is missing," the voice said. It was powerful, echoing like thunder. "Bring him to me." Malik's heart skipped a beat. He knew immediately who had arrived. The Dragon High King himself had come. Soldiers bowed as he passed, and even the officers seemed nervous. But Malik stayed crouched, holding the little dragon close. The hatchling trembled. "Father," he whispered, hiding behind Malik. I don't want to go back." Malik placed a reassuring hand on his head. "I know. We will face this together." They moved cautiously through the shadows, Malik guiding the hatchling past patrols and through unused hallways. Finally, they reached a wider corridor where the king's guards were gathering. The soldiers' armor glinted under the station lights, and their eyes were sharp, scanning for any sign of the missing prince. The hatchling stepped forward slightly. "Father," he whispered. The king turned, his massive figure filling the hallway. His eyes burned brightly as they fell on the small dragon. "There you are," he said, his voice a mix of anger and concern. "You have caused chaos by leaving the palace." The guards moved forward instinctively, but Malik stepped in front of the hatchling. "Stop," he said firmly. The hall went silent. Workers and officers stopped in surprise. No human had ever spoken to the Dragon King like that. Malik's voice was calm but strong. "This little dragon is not a prize to be collected," Malik said. "He is not an object. He is a living being with feelings, fears, and choices. He didn't run away to disobey. He ran because he wanted to be seen as himself, not as a prince." The king's eyes narrowed. He was enormous, intimidating, and powerful, yet Malik stood firm. The guards paused, unsure what to do. Malik's words carried a weight they had never heard from a human. The hatchling peeked from behind Malik. "Father," he said softly, "he listens to me. He understands me. I feel safe with him." The king's gaze softened slightly as he studied Malik. The human janitor, small and ordinary, was holding his son's trust without force or threat. The king's expression was unreadable, but there was curiosity and something like respect in his eyes. Malik took a deep breath. "You can be a king and he can be your son, but he is still his own being. He deserves someone who sees him for who he is, not just for his crown." The king looked down at his son. The hatchling stood tall, small but brave, next to Malik. He did not bow, he did not tremble. He simply looked at his father with honesty and hope. A long silence filled the corridor. The king's massive chest rose and fell as he considered Malik's words. The guards shifted nervously. Malik did not flinch. He stayed where he was, calm, steady, unwavering. Finally the king spoke. "You have shown courage," he said slowly. "Not only in protecting my son but in speaking truth to me, a dragon king. Humans rarely have such bravery." Malik bowed his head slightly, unsure how to respond. "I only wanted to protect him," he said softly. The king's gaze softened. "And you have. This child trusts you and I see why. You treat him as he is, not as what he must be." The hatchling's eyes sparkled. "Will you let me stay with him?" he asked, hope in his voice. The king studied his son for a long moment. Then he nodded slowly. "If he wishes it, you may. I will not force him. And I will not punish the human who has kept him safe." Malik exhaled quietly, relief washing over him. The tension in the hall melted slightly. The guard stepped back, astonished that the king had agreed without anger. The hatchling moved closer to Malik, nuzzling his hand. "Thank you," he whispered. Malik smiled, brushing a small scale from the hatchling's forehead. "You don't need to thank me. I will stay with you no matter what comes." The king's massive form turned to leave, but he paused. "Human," he said, his deep voice echoing, "you have earned my respect. From this day I will remember your name." Malik bowed slightly. "Thank you, your majesty." As the king and his guards left, the hatchling looked up at Malik with wide eyes. You spoke to him. You didn't even bow." Malik chuckled softly. "Sometimes respect is not in bowing. It's in standing up for what is right." The little dragon smiled, a real smile of trust and admiration. "I'm glad you are here with me," he said. Malik nodded. "And I'm glad you are here too. No one will make you feel small when I am around." The two of them walked back to their hiding spot, safe for the moment. Malik knew the king's presence would remain a shadow in the station, but he also knew something powerful had changed. A simple janitor had faced a dragon king and protected a prince, not with weapons but with courage, care, and truth. And the little dragon, once terrified of being taken, now felt hope stronger than fear. For the first time he believed that he could be himself, not just a symbol, and that someone would stand by him no matter what. Malik glanced down at him and smiled. "Tomorrow we find a way to keep you safe for longer. Today you've learned something too, you are stronger than you think." The hatchling curled up beside him, feeling safe and understood. Together they waited in the quiet shadows of the station, ready for whatever might come next. The next morning the station was alive with activity. Workers rushed past, guards patrolled the hallways, and distant engines hummed in the background. Malik moved quietly, carrying his cleaning supplies as usual, but today felt different. The little dragon had stayed hidden beside him overnight, and Malik knew the story of their courage had already spread quietly among those who had witnessed it. The hatchling stirred as Malik entered the supply room. "Do you think he will be angry today?" he asked softly. Malik shook his head. "No. He respects you now and he respects me too. Today we just need to stay careful." The hatchling looked up at him, his small eyes shining. "I never imagined anyone would care so much," he whispered. "Not even in the palace." Malik smiled gently. "Sometimes the right person shows up when you least expect it." They moved carefully through the station. Malik's heart was steady, though he knew the Royal Dragon cruiser remained outside, and the king's soldiers would watch every corridor. But he felt a strange confidence now. Something had changed in him overnight. The courage he had found to stand before a dragon king was still with him. As they reached the main hall, a hush fell over the workers. The king had returned, his massive figure entering the station with a calm, deliberate pace. Guards followed closely, but their movements were restrained. Malik led the little dragon forward, standing in the middle of the hall. The king stopped and looked at his son. The hatchling stepped forward, no longer trembling. "Father," he said softly, "I want to stay with Malik. He treats me like I am myself, not just a prince." The king's eyes softened as he studied Malik. "You have earned my trust," he said slowly. "You have shown care, wisdom, and courage. Humans rarely act with such bravery." Malik lowered his head respectfully. "I only wanted to protect him," he said quietly. The king nodded. "Then you shall. From this day you are under my protection as well." He paused and looked around the hall. "Not only do you keep him safe, but you have also taught me something important. Care and courage come in many forms, even from those the world overlooks." The hatchling's eyes lit up. "Really?" he whispered. "Yes," the king said. "Truly?" Malik blinked in surprise. He had never imagined that the Dragon King would recognize him in this way. For years he had been invisible, a janitor who cleaned halls nobody cared about. Now the king was calling him brave, recognizing him as someone who made a difference. Malik felt a warmth he had never known before. The little dragon nuzzled Malik's hand. "I knew you were special," he whispered. "You are more than just a janitor." Malik smiled faintly. "I guess, today I became more than I thought I was." The king watched the two of them, then spoke again. "This human reminds us that power is not only in strength or titles. True power is in kindness, courage, and loyalty. You have shown that to my son, and to me." Workers and guards who had gathered began to murmur in admiration. Malik realized that in one day he had changed the way people saw him. Not because he shouted or fought, but because he stood firm for what was right. He had given safety, trust, and care to someone who needed it. The hatchling hopped onto Malik's shoulder, curling around his neck. "Will you come with me to the palace?" he asked softly. Malik hesitated for a moment. The palace was a place of power, of politics, and of dragons much larger and more intimidating than he had ever seen. But he looked down at the little dragon's trusting face and knew the answer. "Yes," he said. "I will come." The king's eyes softened further. "Then you are welcome," he said. "Not just as a guest but as someone who belongs here. You will be the guardian and friend my son chooses." Malik felt his chest swell. A janitor, a human nobody noticed, was now entrusted with the safety and happiness of a prince. He realized that courage, kindness, and loyalty could lift anyone from being unseen to being respected. The hatchling curled up closer, resting his small head on Malik's shoulder. "I feel safe now," he whispered. "And happy." Malik patted his tiny back gently. "And I feel proud," he admitted softly. "Proud that I could help you. Proud that I could stand up for what is right." The king watched them for a long moment. Then he said, "Let this be remembered. Even the smallest, simplest being can change the course of great events." Today, a janitor reminded us of that truth. Malik looked around the hall. Workers were watching, guards were nodding, and the little dragon smiled at him. For the first time he felt truly seen, truly valued. He had started the night as an invisible janitor, and now he was more than that. A protector, a friend, a hero in his own quiet way. Outside, the station continued its endless work, but inside, Malik and the little dragon shared a new beginning. One night had led to courage, one choice had led to respect, and one act of kindness had changed the fate of a prince, and the heart of a janitor. The little dragon yawned and curled up beside Malik. "Thank you for staying with me," he whispered. Malik smiled softly and replied, "And thank you for trusting me." And in that moment, both of them knew that their journey together had only just begun.